All right, Jesse, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today and a bit about Taziki's?
Absolutely. So I kind of have a unique Taziki story. I do not have a ton of restaurant industry background. I actually started out in accounting and started helping a friend of mine's. We did catering. She had a catering company. And so I was actually doing her taxes and started doing some catering for her. And that's kind of where I got my restaurant background. And I was just approached by Taziki's to be a general manager in 2015. So I started out as a general manager in a store and worked my way up to be a franchise business consultant. I went on to be an owner operator of Taziki's and then chose to come back to corporate to focus on franchise operations because I felt all my years of experience in the field could ultimately help our franchise partners, and I could be an advocate for them on the corporate side to help them grow and be successful. So that's kind of how I got started with Taziki's. I can tell you that I love Taziki's. Taziki's, I've been there 8+ years. I can still eat there every single day. What makes us stand out from everyone else is our food is truly fresh. We hand cut our vegetables, we hand cut our meats. We have imported products from Greece, which is the inspiration of this concept from a trip that our founder went to in Greece on his honeymoon and came back and said, this is what I want to do. Hospitality. I want to make people feel good through food and connection. And that's what Taziki's is all about.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you guys have seen such incredible growth. I mean, what's the formal number of locations that you have today?
So as of today, we have 96 locations. Our next location will open. It'll be their 4th location in Chattanooga and Hickson. So that'll be their 4th location, and that'll be number 97. We are on target to open 15 new stores this year.
Oh my God,
so
that's incredible.
We are growing fast, but growing smart.
That is, I mean, when I hear those numbers like 96, 97 locations and like, what did you say, 15 more? It's just like unbelievable growth. I mean, for you as an operations leader, like what kind of like challenge does that present for you?
Oh, wow. So, one, we have to have new store opening teams. So that also falls under, operations and my role. So I have a new store opening manager. And one of the challenges that we have is having field trainers that can go out and open all of these locations, that are able to come out of existing locations that we have and not hurt those existing locations. So that's been a challenge.
Totally. I mean, because one of the things I definitely hear across the board is the difficulty in getting new stores opened, especially when you have, 15 plus locations, like you need to get launched for a year. And like to that exact point, I actually just spoke with a hotel group that we're talking about like opening like I think like 10 more hotels this year and having like NSO specialists who can come in and make them open. But like at the same time, you're talking about like, what was it, 15, 16? How many did you say again?
15 stores this
15.
year.
Okay, so you think 15. That's like more than one a month. So like, that's an unbelievable amount of pressure given, say, like take it for hiring, for example, like the bodies that you need to make those restaurants happen. You probably need to start like at least 10 weeks in advance. You probably need like that much time, like the amount of prep that goes into that and the overlapping or the concurrent pressure that comes with that. Is that like, do you guys have like a lockdown process for that now? Are you like changing? Is it fluid? How does that kind of work?
Currently, it's fluid, but we are implementing a process that we hope to achieve this year. So what we're doing right now is we like to promote within. A lot of our team members in the stores have been with us for many years. We have a lot of tenure employees. So they have the skills, and a lot of them have the ambition to want to do more than just be in the stores. So we're trying to figure out how to create, we're going to call them field training specialists that will also be able to be NSO trainers or NSO leaders. And we're trying to create those in our own locations and then use them for both training our own stores as they are existing stores and new stores that we're opening.
Yeah, that's great. And, that kind of makes me think that that's like a real kind of desirable job for your existing staff. You know what I mean? So like that makes me think a lot about like say like retention and processes and like your culture. Like so like three kind of everything stems from culture no matter what.
Right.
And obviously you are living and breathing the culture. You're like, I can eat here every day. You know what I mean? And it kind of starts there, obviously. And I think about that in the sense, like you got like you're looking to promote from within, which is obviously like absolutely critical, given it's like impossible to hire nearly like I want to say impossible to hire. It's just the most challenging thing to find like experienced people
It is.
in hospitality today. So when you think about like retaining the staff that you have, presumably you have formal processes for them for like graduation points into like GMs, NSO specialists, whatever types of roles you have. Do you guys have like clear pathways for promotions, for benefits, that kind of stuff for your
Absolutely.
existing
So
staff?
we have career pathways. Obviously, for our corporate locations, we have the career pathways that, we are able to implement. For our franchisee locations, it is something that we recommend to them that they do in their own locations, right, for their career pathways and give their employees the
Yeah.
same opportunities.
Yeah.
But yes,
No. Yeah. Good.
I was going to say, yes, we do. And so we have a great training department. It's called People Operations, and they lead all of our training and implementations. We just recently implemented at the end of last year Quest training platform, which is through Exonify, and it is amazing. It helps us with reinforcement learning. It's a communication tool for our frontline employees.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And so one of the things I definitely hear, and you mentioned the word communication, is I hear this from like everybody, and I think I see it as a real differentiator from a culture perspective and from a business results perspective. That like the more successful the sort of hospitality business is, the more important communication is, but the more communication is utilized across the organization, top to bottom. When you think about communication and Taziki's, like where do you see it on a spectrum of like utter transparency, utter lack of transparency? Where in that spectrum do you think you guys lie?
We are a very transparent company. We are very transparent with our employees, with our franchisees. We come up with, we have something called company objectives that are based off of our culture compass each year and things that we want to improve. So we're very transparent with the goals and what we're trying to accomplish, and being transparent with everybody in the organization as to when we succeed and when we fail, right? Because failures are not always a bad thing. Sometimes they're lesson learned and their way to move forward and grow based off of things that you learned and things you're not going to do again.
Totally. And I think about it like that because, I mean, imagine that the audience for this podcast, which it is, by the way, is all like, say, very much like peers of yours. Are there like, communication? You mentioned the two that you had for better communication. Like, when you think about communicating with, say, like your employees, and in particular, like, say, Gen Z, which is kind of like your new type of like workforce that are very sort of phone centric, so to speak, and very phone forward. I don't even know what the phrase for that is. I mean, I use my phone, but whatever way we think, whatever way we think about them, like when you think about communicating with that audience, you got like your sort of geriatric millennials like myself, and then you have like, yeah, I heard that phrase recently and it made me laugh. And I was like, okay, that's me. You got your like Xers and your boomers and whatever else, and like every single block has a different preference. Like I know, say like older people, older inverted commas, would like an email, know how to use email. But Gen Z, you couldn't send them an email because they're never going to see it. And so when you think about like the ways you communicate, how flexible are you with how you communicate with them to make sure that all your staff get the same message?
So we use anything from Facebook to we have a YouTube channel to we have TikTok. And then we do monthly, we call them Tazcasts. So it's basic Tazcasts. So basically that's how we communicate monthly information to our system through a webinar, right? Where they can join and learn and be interactive through chat and stuff. So we try really hard to focus on different communication tactics for all genres of people. So because there are many different ways, right? And so I have children that are, I don't even know the more tech savvy kids, right? So, and I am that geriatric savvy person. But so, like I'm always like, oh, tell me about your TikTok thing you got going on, or so
Yeah.
we try really hard to pay attention to what our staff wants. We truly believe in people first. That's 100% Taziki's.
I can feel that like emanating from you, and I feel like, God, should I just go work at Taziki's now?
You
Just say
should.
that.
You should work at Taziki's. I'm telling you, like it is amazing. We have a culture that until you experience it, you're like, that's just on paper. No, our culture is true to what we say it is, and it makes an amazing place to work. And I hope that everyone in our stores feel that way too, because they should.
And so on that, for example, I would imagine then that you guys have a pretty low like turnover of staff then, or you'd have like a sort of like a metric that you guys are looking to like beat all the time that would be relatively high in terms of like, lack of churn.
Now, I would not lie to you because we are a transparent company, right?
Yeah.
So we have challenges just like
Yeah.
everyone else has challenges with turnover. It's one of the things that we continue to try to work on the most by
Yeah.
investing in what our staff and our employees want.
Yeah.
Because it is our biggest challenge. So we are always monitoring our turnover rate, right? And so we are always recognizing the stores that are doing really well. But, we have different stores in many different states. And so the employment challenges are very different in different markets. So depending on who's working in what market and who's not, right? So a lot of it can be demographical. And so that can also relate to turnover for us.
Yeah, interesting. Because it's like it's just one of these perpetual battles. Like one of the things I've heard, like definitely, I mean, I've been in Atlanta say like almost 2 years, and obviously that like suffer for finding hourly workers. And when I started, it was very much like we need to fill our top of funnel as fast as possible. Like we need to get that like maxed out. Then it became a question of we only need quality. I can't deal with the top of funnel anymore. We don't need warm bodies. We need good bodies. And then it became a question of like retention. And we've kind of run this sort of race. And I guess like across retention, quality, and top of funnel, where do you see like Taziki's sort of like laser focus if you were to pick one of the three?
So I would say that, so once employees start with us, the retention is usually pretty good. So we did some research based off of when our employees leaving us, like within the first 30 days, within the first 30 to 60 days, or after 60 days, right? And we found that initially people were kind of leaving us between that 30 and 60-day mark. And that was because you come in, you're super excited, you can't wait to work, you're getting all this training, and then it's like, okay, you're done. Go do your job. We forgot about you. You're on the salad station. Right. Yeah. And they still want that like engagement and that reinforcement and all that. So we've done a lot of focus on at what point people are hired at and how we are going to continue to engage with them and to grow their training and give them more opportunity.
So does that, like, if I'm hearing that, it's like your focus on like the onboarding and having a longer onboarding cycle because you can see in that 30 to 60 zone that there is a drop off or areas for you guys to improve on.
I wouldn't just say onboarding because, at some point, like you're onboarded, right? But to never stop that process of continuing to grow them and engage them with our learning or cross-training them or listening to what it is that they want in the stores, right? From a people perspective. Is it that they want daily pay? Is it that they want different benefits, right? What is it that our people want that's going to make them stay longer once we get them in the door? Because as you know, choosing the right people to start with. That's the biggest thing, right? You have to choose the people that want to be invested and want to be there, right? We can't just say like I heard you say, you just hire warm bodies. We don't want to do that. We want to invest in the right people and they're going to stay longer.
And have there been because obviously it's like I said, it's like a long race almost across the 3 touch points. And it's like a fine balance. You're almost trying to like figure out like, okay, not as much top follow up, but can we get the quality up? But we get the quality up. If we don't look after them, how do we get that back up? Are there particular types of like benefits or processes that you implemented in that 30 to 60 zone that you could point your finger at and say that actually worked?
So I would say training. is ultimately probably the number one thing. So giving them the correct training. When you
Yep.
hire somebody and you go, hey, here's the register. You type this, and in. That's how you ring up an order. Okay, you got it, right? I'm going to be over here if you need anything, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then they're like, I think I got it, right? But actually giving them the training that they need based on their role
yeah,
and giving them proper training instead of just fulfilling a need because we have one at that immediate time. So you actually really have to invest that time, even though you might be short staffed, right? You still have to invest that time in that person to make sure that they understand their role and their expectations and that they can do it properly so that you're able to move them forward and have really good employees that know what to do and have that what we call like hospitality host mindset, right? So that's one of the things in Taziki's that we really focus on is people have the heart for hospitality. They don't have the
yeah.
habit for it.
It's interesting you say that, the heart, because you can build a habit. And I had somebody, like I had a director of hotel operations on recently, and we were talking about night managers. And like, you want to talk about like struggles of hiring a type of person, try somebody who wants to work in the middle of the night.
And stay awake.
I'd stay awake. And he's like, we're talking about like, what is it that is in that person? You know, like, because they're like almost like the ultimate team player, because it's a kind of role that's like kind of unique. And it's like, you know, obviously you have to be very committed. Like, obviously, if you come into a hotel at 3 o'clock in the morning with the baby crying and your flight's delayed, the person will remember if you treat them badly. They won't really remember if you treat them well. So you got a fine line of like managing that sort of guest experience. And, you know, he's like, you know, service can be trained. Like, you can train service, but can you train like personality? And it's like, not really. So it's like, you have to be able to identify what are the markers of like great personality to
Right.
like, and then you, like, to your point, it's like, you need to have like a passion for hospitality. So like, what are the markers of passion for hospitality? Or if somebody's really young and they don't even know what a passion for anything is, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you get that out of them or let that bloom? I like to use the phrase like greenhousing. You know, I
Right.
hear, you know, like I feel like the best sort of like hospitality groups. I'm not sure if you, oh, you're frozen. I'm not sure, but like I think like the best hospitality groups, businesses, like kind of create a greenhouse for their staff. And what I mean by that is like I hear so much from you in this call, in this podcast, like, you know, training is the number one thing. You know, it's like training, 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 people, 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 you know, and it goes back to that culture line, which is like what I think separates the best sort of companies in hospitality. It's actually the culture, not necessarily like the food.
Hmm.
And one of the things I definitely heard, like I feel, is that like say for example, I had the director of operational excellence from Dave and Buster's on, and he made a really good point to me. And they're like at like 200 almost 200 locations. And he was like, "This is not patentable." He's like, "We're doing an arcade with food, like as in like nothing what we're doing. There's like something anybody could copy this. Do you know what I mean? Like it's there to be copied." And he's like, people can kind of go anywhere. You know what I mean? They can choose it. They don't have to. Why are they coming to us? You know what I mean? What is it about people wanting to work for us, you know, as an employee brand? And it's like, because they gave them the roadmap to like improve their career. They give them a type of stability in a happy workplace. You know, they give them a way to like really kind of like leverage themselves into whatever position they want to be. And I think about that a lot in the context of what you're saying as well. You know, that like the culture is kind of like the difference maker for like an organization like yours that's growing. You're like, you know, you're talking about 96 locations today, one more very soon, and then 15 more for the rest of the year. You're going to hit that 100 mark. Do you know what I mean? Which is like huge. And like, there are other Greek restaurants. You know what I mean? Like they exist. So like, you're obviously doing something right. And it sounds to me like it's the way you're treating the people and your human capital. Now, when I say human capital, that sounds terrible. That sounds like you're not really treating humans like humans if you call them human capital. But in the context of like, you know, the difference maker is how you treat the people. You know,
Yeah, so we have a culture compass at Taziki's, and we have five core values, and our number one value is connection. So connection with our staff, connection with our guest, and that is extremely important to us.
yeah,
So now our food is amazing. So that is a difference for us is that we truly provide fresh amazing food every single day. I mean, when I say fresh, it is not like cut it out of a bag, put it
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
microwave. We don't have microwaves, right?
yeah.
So we
Yeah,
we
love
we
that.
make our sauces fresh. That does set us apart from a lot of other concepts as well. But it definitely starts with the culture.